Kitco Mining's special coverage of Fast Markets lithium supply and battery raw materials is brought to you by Lindian Resources.
Quebec has a growing lithium sector thanks in part to my next guest's work. Austin Devaney is Chief Commercial Officer at Piedmont Lithium. Austin, welcome to Kitco.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Bring us up to date with Piedmont. You have a business relationship with Sayona in Quebec, and I believe that you are a production.
Yeah, that's it's really been exciting. We're moving a company from where we were a non-revenue, pre-revenue company to a revenue-producing company in 2023. So that truly is an exciting time in the life of a company. When you think about where Piedmont has come from, 7 years ago we were founded. We were tied to a flagship project in North Carolina. Over the course of the last 7 years, we have made investments and partnerships with resource companies around the world, developing lithium hydroxide conversion capacity here in the United States. Added to our team, I can't keep count with how many people we have on the team now. It's well over 50 people. So it's really interesting to migrate from where it started with just a couple of people to where we are today.
Now you have a couple of other pieces that you're building out through this decade. You have the pieces down in the south, and then you also have the piece over in Africa. I'm muddling it up here, but maybe take us through what are the next steps.
Yeah, so it's interesting because we moved from that flagship project in North Carolina and continue to make great progress with that. But as we saw where the lithium market was headed, what opportunities were when prices for both companies and interest in lithium kind of waned in 2019 and 2020, it really gave us an opportunity to take advantage of that and do some consolidation and make some partnerships to support our projects. So when you look forward to kind of where we're at, the Sayona joint venture, Sayona Quebec, a 75% Sayona, 25% joint venture, 25% Piedmont joint venture, acquired the North American Lithium asset out of bankruptcy in 2021. We've now spent almost $80 million US to bring that project back to life, make some upgrades in that facility, started production in the first quarter of 2023, and again, making first shipments here in the next quarter of 2023. That'll be exciting. We formed a partnership with Atlantic Lithium, which was formerly Iron Ridge in Ghana, Africa, because we saw a need for additional resources. We've been very involved with their team to build out kind of what they're developing, bring more assets, and we'll work towards funding that project such that Piedmont will become a 50% partner in the Atlantic Lithium Awuya project. That really gives us the fuel, the resources to build a conversion facility, which is the last project we announced, our Tennesse lithium conversion facility. We started work on that a little over a year ago, published a DFS in May of this year. It's another 30,000 ton per year lithium hydroxide dedicated to the United States market, really using the resource material from Ghana, Africa.
The Inflation Reduction Act, Piedmont was a beneficiary of it. You had the, let me get my numbers right, but that was the $147 million for the Tennessee plant that you're building down there. IRA has become, let's say, a little less popular with some politicians. Is there any, if there's a change in government, could there be any disruption?
Yeah, so Piedmont was very fortunate to be able to be in a position, because of the timing where we were with our projects, to submit a proposal to the Department of Energy. Were rewarded under the bipartisan infrastructure law with a grant of $142 million. That will support that project. The capital for that project is a little over $800 million, so it's only a portion of the requirements there. When you look at the impacts the Inflation Reduction Act have for the battery supply chain in the United States, they're monumental in terms of what the industry will be able to do with the benefits from that. I think there are pieces that are more politically sensitive to that. I think for Piedmont, and really what we focus on, is the Section 45X, which are production tax credits. And I'm less sensitive or concerned that political winds will change that, because many of the projects that are working towards achieving 45X production tax credits are in bipartisan districts. They're in Republican districts. They're in Democratic districts. I think the one that's probably a little more sensitive are customer subsidies in the 30D component. That one has a lot more political implications to it. It probably catches all of the air in the room when you hear discussions about it. So for Piedmont, I'm less concerned about political changes moving the needle in terms of the Inflation Reduction Act. There was a pretty large effort to try to pull back legislation that had made in the past and other bills similar to this, and they've all failed. And because you'd really need a pretty heavy lift on either party's side to change a law that's gone into place. So I'm at the stage that I think for us, 45X and the battery supply chain will be such a large impact over the next decade that I think it will help build a battery supply chain that's much more resilient than what we have today.
You're the chief commercial officer. You pay attention to lithium prices. You were talking about 2019 where you saw a trough in the industry. I remember the same time where it's just absolute death in the industry. We had this year, and probably one of the top events that happened in the lithium space was kind of that drop off or the sudden fall in lithium prices. But talk about the price right now. Did we set a bottom? What does it look like going forward? And, I'm guessing as well, too, this is still a small market. I guess we're still going to be seeing a lot of volatility. And how do you deal with that?
Yeah, no question. Volatility will be kind of the name of the game when it comes to lithium prices. You'll have supply that comes in kind of chunky waves. Demand may have some headwinds at times. I think as an industry, and we kind of grow up and evolve, there'll be a lot of tools put in place to help cure some of that volatility. But I think when you look at the challenges that we face to bring new supply into the market, that's going to create a lot of bubbles, if you will. I think the period that we experienced in 2019 and 2020, I think it's very unlikely that we'll return to lows like that, because everyone recognizes that going forward, we're going to have demand growing by 20 or 25 or 30% a year. And really you'll have a supply constraint that probably will influence a lot of people to pre-buy or take advantage if there is a price. So I think there's a little bit of an insulation from going back to prices in spodumene that were sub 500 and lithium salts that were sub $6,000 a ton to where we're today. You're seeing prices that are anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 a ton in the global market. So I think we'll see a lot. We'll see volatility, but in the cure of kind of where it goes really low, I don't think we'll return back to a 2020 type phenomenon.
The big headline that you see in the lithium space is when there's been the offtake. There's been the offtake with X, offtake with Y. So early in this year, congratulations, you did the offtake with LG Chem. What do you take from the types of choices, though, that a company makes in terms of like the partners that they have there? Is there just what else is like strategically that kind of matters? If you look in the future, because there's going to be future offtakes with automakers and with large chemical companies, European, wherever else as well too. When you look at it, Austin, what are some of the takeaways or what are some of the strategic decisions that a company may make regarding offtake partnering?
Yeah, when I think about what an offtake agreement might look like, who it might be with, I'm going to kind of focus on two camps. Someone who can help in the processing side and help and has technology that might help understand how you get our product into their system really well. So think cell makers and cathode makers and that type of company who's saying, how do we take cost out of the system? And then really is the other piece is the one you mentioned. When you talk about offtakes, I think it's supporting the funding and legislation type things that will impact how we build our facilities. I mentioned before, we've got a government grant for the Tennessee facility, but we still have a very big delta in terms of the funding side of that with a capital of over $800 million. So an offtake really for us is the currency that we have to be able to trade to secure some of that funding. And that really will be important to us. So I kind of put two things in the camp. One is helping us fund a project, and then one is helping us operate a project.
Piedmont Lithium is a miner. You have the operation, you have the venture, you have a partner with Sayona in Quebec. There is a lot of juniors that have come into Quebec that are exploring for, discovering, or trying to advance lithium projects right now. What's the type of assessment that you would make regarding that? If you have somebody say that was a successful person that was able to move forward like a silver project, are they also people that you think could successfully move forward a lithium project? Or do you think there's like a real specialty and there needs to be a real understanding around chemistry in terms of these things?
Yeah, fabulous question, because it's one I point to when you talk about silver or platinum group metals or gold. Those products tend to go to a pure material. They get refined up to a 99.9%. And then the downstream products, whether it's a salt type product or something else that's used in industry, cobalt and nickel are the same way. They go to a base metal in the smelting process and come back to a chemistry that allows them to be used in a battery. With lithium, you don't operate that way. You start from a raw ore or a brine material, and you only incrementally purify it up to what it's needed. So you don't go all the way to the most pure product and come back. You only get part way. So that will make it challenging from a developer standpoint of figuring out how do I design my process and how do I move forward in that. When I look at developers and juniors, one of the biggest challenges, and I think one of the things that's kind of missed in industry is how hard it is to develop a project. You mentioned Quebec and the number of junior and explorers that are there looking today. They're a long way from operation. That's really the biggest challenge. Our Sayona project, the joint venture there, it holds 137 different permits to operate. And many people don't recognize that while Canada's a mining-friendly jurisdiction, there's still a lot of responsibilities put on an operator there and a lot of criteria to meet. So just going through the exploration phase doesn't get you to an operating phase. And that's really what I think a lot of people miss when they look at the industry and say, we've got a lot to learn here, because just finding a material in the ground, you've got to do a lot to get to a sellable product that someone can use, then put into a battery or into commerce in any form. So when I think about how developers will move forward, it's really understanding kind of what are the responsibilities we'll have to develop the project, but it'll also be what's our end product and how do we deliver an end product that people can use.
Austin, this is the last day of the Fast Market Show here in Henderson, Nevada. Some of our people that are watching this right now maybe they actually hear the conference being disassembled around us. So it's been 3 days. We've had a lot of analysis here. We've had a lot of presentations. We've had suppliers. We've had juniors. We've had miners. We've had the automakers. What's the smartest thing? What's the most interesting thing that you heard during the 3-day conference?
Well, when I think about the smartest thing is that, it's probably, it's the light bulb going off of people's heads, about how the industry's evolving and becoming a larger industry, and understanding kind of the magnitude of kind of where we are today from where we were 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, it was a really tiny business just a short period of time ago. Where we're headed now is we'll be, $100 billion plus industry very soon. And with that, you'll get to a point where it brings in a lot of outside influences, whether that's banks or investors or mining companies who weren't there presently. They've kind of remained on the sideline, but lithium is becoming a large enough product. So it's that light bulb going off that I'm seeing people kind of recognizing, I need to know more about this industry. So the people here who are participating here who've never been to one of these conferences, that's probably something. When I think about interesting, the thing that I found most interesting as a developer of lithium hydroxide assets in the United States is I have so many people who've been focused on lithium hydroxide demand. Every automaker and cell maker that I've spoken to here, they're telling me that they're going to be focused almost exclusively on hydroxide.
Explain to that. Why is that important? What does that mean?
There's been a big debate about whether hydroxide or carbonate, the two primary lithium salts, will be the preferred choice for battery makers. They each have a different application. I'm a believer that both of them will be used. they fall into different cathode chemistries, which then allow longer range vehicles or longer cycle life vehicles, lower cost vehicles. And so you get this whole spectrum of kind of what the market might ultimately evolve to. But it was interesting to hear that there's such a great focus on lithium hydroxide in the United States, because I'm a lithium hydroxide developer. It's very encouraging to hear that, because we hear people talk about carbonate and it kind of questions investors' minds of whether there'll be something that takes our demand away. And when I hear everyone talk about lithium hydroxide, I'm 2 thumbs up saying, yeah, that's excellent to hear.
Austin, thanks for your time.
Yep. Enjoyed it, Mike.
My name is Michael McRae here at Fast Market's 15th Lithium Supply and Battery Raw Materials Show in Henderson, Nevada.
Kitco Mining's special coverage of Fast Market's lithium supply and battery raw materials is brought to you by Lindian Resources.